Hey, my friends, how you doing today? It's Mr. Wells again with ELA, and we are going to do chapter one of Bloody Times, the funeral of Abraham Lincoln, and the manhunt for Jefferson Davis. But we already did the prologue and the introduction in part one. So if you haven't watched part one of this video, you need to go back and watch part one before you watch this. All right, but let's start page 181, chapter 1. Make sure you're following along so you can take the notes. On the morning of Sunday, April 2nd, 1865, Richmond, Virginia, capital city of the Confederate States of America, did not look like a city at war. The White House of the Confederacy was surprisingly close to 100 miles from the White House in Washington, D.C., but the armies of the North had never been able to capture Richmond. After 4 years of war, Richmond had not been invaded by Yankees. The people there had thus far been spared many of the horrors of fighting. This morning, everything appeared beautiful and serene. The air smelled of spring, and fresh green growth promised a season of new life. As he usually did on Sundays, President Jefferson Davis walked from his mansion to St. Paul's Episcopal Church. One of the worshipers, a young woman named Constance Cary, recalled the day. On the sunny morning of April 2nd, a perfect Sunday of the southern spring, a large congregation assembled as usual at St. Paul's. As the service went on, a messenger entered the church. He brought Jefferson Davis a telegram from Robert E. Lee. The telegram was not addressed to Davis, but to his Secretary of War, John C. Breckinridge. Breckinridge had sent it on to Davis. It told devastating news. The Union Army was approaching the city gates, and the Army of Northern Virginia, with Lee in command, was powerless to stop them. General J.C. Breckinridge, I see no prospect of doing more than holding our position here till night. I am not certain that I can do that. I advise that all preparation be made for leaving Richmond tonight. I will advise you later according to circumstances. R. E. Lee. Okay, so as we've been looking at this, one of the things we see here is imagery. Okay, imagery is descriptive language that appeals to the senses, and you're going to write that in your notes. You're going to see that in there. We've already talked about that in other units, but you can see that here on page 181 when it talks about it talks about they've been spared the horrors of fighting. But this morning, everything appeared beautiful, serene. The air smelled of spring. Fresh green growth promised a season of new life. Okay, this is imagery. This descriptive language, lots of adjectives used, appeals to the senses. Okay, your five senses, sight, smell, touch, hearing, taste, those type of things. Okay, that's what imagery is. The other thing that I want you to notice here is that a lot of times we're trying to find out what the author's purpose behind something is, okay? Author's purpose is the author's reason for writing. The author's reason for writing. So in this little telegram here from General Lee to Breckinridge, what was his purpose of writing? Basically to say, I can't defend Richmond. You guys are in danger. You need to make preparations to leave right now. So that would be the author's purpose. You want to have that in your notes as well. On reading the telegram, Davis did not panic, but he turned pale and quietly rose to leave the church. The news quickly spread through Richmond. As if by a flash of electricity, Richmond knew that on the morrow her streets would be crowded by her captors. Her rulers fled, her high hopes crushed to earth. Constance Cary wrote later, I saw many pale faces, some trembling lips, but in all that day I heard no expression of a weakling fear. Many people did not believe that Richmond would be captured. General Lee would not allow it to happen, they told themselves. He would protect the city, just as the army had done before. In the spring of 1865, Robert E. Lee was the greatest hero in the Confederacy, more popular than Jefferson Davis, whom many people blamed for their country's present misfortunes. With Lee to defend them, many people of Richmond refused to believe that before the sun rose the next morning, life as they knew it would come to an end. Jefferson Davis walked from St. Paul's to his office. He summoned the leaders of his government to meet with him there at once. Davis explained to his cabinet that the fall of Richmond would not mean the death of the Confederate States of America. He would not stay behind to surrender the capital. If Richmond was doomed to fall, then the president and government would leave the city, travel south, and set up a new capital in Danville, Virginia, 140 miles to the southwest. The war would go on. Davis told the cabinet to pack their most important records and send them to the railway station. What they could not take, they must burn. The train would leave tonight, and he expected all of them to be on it. Secretary of War John C. Breckinridge would stay behind in Richmond to make sure the evacuation of the government went smoothly, and then follow the train to Danville. Davis ordered the train to take on other cargo too, the Confederate treasury, consisting of $500,000 in gold and silver coins. After spending most of the afternoon working at his office, Davis walked home to pack his few remaining possessions. The house was eerily still. His wife, Verena, and their 4 children had already evacuated to Charlotte, North Carolina. His private secretary, Burton Harrison, had gone with them to make sure they reached safely. Verena had begged to stay with her husband in Richmond until the end. Jefferson said no, that for their safety she and the children must go. He understood she wanted to help and comfort him. He told her, "But you can do this in but one way, and that is by going yourself and taking our children to a place of safety." What he said next was frightening. "If I live," he promised, "you can come to me when the struggle is ended." On March 29th, the day before Verena and the children left Richmond, Davis gave his wife a revolver and taught her how to use it. He also gave her all the money he had, saving just one $5 gold piece for himself. Verena and the children left the White House on Thursday, March 30th. "Leaving the house as it was," Verena wrote later, "and taking only our clothing, I made ready with my young sister and my 4 little children, the eldest only 9 years old, to go forth into the unknown." The children did not want to leave their father. "Our little Jeff begged to remain with him," Verena wrote, "and Maggie clung to him, for it was evident he thought he was looking his last upon us." The president took his family to the station and put them aboard a train. While Jefferson Davis spent his last night in the Confederate White House alone, without his family, he did not know that Abraham Lincoln had left his own White House several days ago and was now traveling in Virginia. Lincoln was visiting the Union Army. The Union president did not want to go home until he had won the war, and he dreamed of seeing Richmond. Okay, we'll do chapter 2 in the next video here. Make sure you like it, and enable notifications and subscribe and all that good stuff, because my viral videos are great. Part 3. Go to part 3. Talk to you later.